It's a neat experience for me today to have two of our Lakeview graduates who are fixing to be graduates from ASU, who have grown up throughout and gone to our schools in SAISD throughout most, if not all, of your career. And the purpose of this interview is for them to talk to us a little bit about an experience they got to have this last summer, a part of a travel program, a new international studies program at ASU. And I am so interested in that, and it's my pleasure to not only get to visit with you, but for us and our audience to find out a little bit about that experience, along with anything else that of interest that we come upon in this discussion. With us today we have Miss Elisa Munoz, and she went to San Jacinto Elementary, Lincoln Middle School, and graduated from Lakeview High School. And we have Chelsea Preas, who went to Fannin, Lincoln, and Lakeview, and now both are seniors. And you see the light at the end of the tunnel?
Yes, ma'am.
Woohoo! Speaking from a parent, when I saw that we were in the last couple of semesters for our children of college, it's a really big deal. So I know that your parents feel the same way. But you both became part of an international studies program that's a new endeavor at ASU. Talk to me about the program first, and then we'll get to the actual trip you all took with other ASU students. Who would like to address that?
Actually, there's been quite a few study abroad trips. This was the first time that this particular trip was offered.
Okay, good.
And this one was an art and music trip that we took to Scotland and England. And a lot of museums, a few concerts, centering around the arts mainly is what this trip was all about. So.
And why did you two decide, and give me the deep stuff as well as just the fun stuff, that you were interested in participating in this?
Well, we're both English majors, so for us to get to go to England and Scotland, where the literary greats were born and raised and wrote their masterpieces, was really the chance of a lifetime, on top of getting to go out of the country for the first time for me. And, you know.
And you said almost out of Texas had not been in your life before this trip. So you took a big leapfrog here. Okay, so why? All right, so you were interested because of your major, but this was an arts trip. So why? I'm pushing you here, but why was that a particular interest for you?
Well, since they didn't have an English specific,
like going to see
abroad
Shakespeare
right.
home.
We picked the one that was closest to us. There were two going to Scotland. One was a politics and economics group, and one was art and music. And I've always loved art and music in addition to English, so it just made sense.
And how long were y'all gone?
We were gone for a month.
Oh my goodness. Did you get homesick?
For a while, but they have video chats on the computer, and I had taken my laptop with me, so we were able to talk to our parents and her boyfriend and everything, by camera. So when it was, about midnight over there, it was 6 o'clock in the evening here, so we had to coordinate, but it made it a lot easier.
Well, since both of you are going to college in the same city where you grew up, this was a big deal for y'all to be gone a month so far away, and it's very expensive to talk on the phone. So I'm glad nowadays with technology the way it is that you were able to do that. All right, so now talk about what you had to do to get ready. Did you meet as a group and go, as I have said with students I've taken on led on trips, it's very important to go with a body of knowledge. So talk to me about the body of knowledge that you went with.
We basically had meetings once a month at least. Class meetings and then also travel meetings were kind of combined. So we could get some of the class hours out of the way so we could actually go to the museums on more time, so we wouldn't have to spend more time in the classroom. So we got some of the hours knocked out. And they just kind of started telling us, you need to have this much money ready by this time, and start thinking about packing this kind of clothes so that you could buy them as time went along. So they kind of kept us on a schedule saying, okay, you need to be at this point by this time.
And you told me that about 17 young people went, along with a couple of, how many professors or chaperones?
We had one major sponsor. He was the one that was there the entire time, and another professor went, but he only stayed a week, and he was there kind of to learn how to make his own study abroad program somewhere else.
Okay. In your class preparing you to go, were you prepared for the difference, even though there's not as much difference in the culture of, say, England as our country, certainly, as maybe many other countries, but were you prepared, given information about even the museums or the art venues that you were going to visit?
We got a little bit of information about that beforehand. Some of it wasn't hammered out till the very end, so we didn't have a specific itinerary till close to about a month before we left. But we were well informed about culture shock, how to deal with being homesick, not to expect the American way of life over there, not to expect, to get ice in your Coke when they serve it to you.
Or ice in anything.
Ice in anything.
Unless you ask.
Yes, ma'am.
Which is, on the surface, a little bitty deal, but it's one of several things that are different. What were some surprises? Did you have surprises?
I was surprised by when we went to restaurants. Here, the waitresses are very attentive. They're constantly coming back to, fill your tea or make sure everything's okay and give you your check. We ended up waiting.
You have to ask sometimes to get your check because they wouldn't come by for about 20-30 minutes at a time. So it was kind of like you're used to being focused on at a restaurant sometimes more than you want to be, and over there it's kind of the opposite. They only come to take your order, to serve your food and drinks, and that's about it until you need your ticket. Name me one of your biggest highlights of your trip, both of you.
My favorite part was going to the Highlands. We took a day trip on a little mini coach bus up into the Highlands. It was my absolute favorite.
And so you left from where?
From Edinburgh, the capital city.
Okay.
Scotland.
And why was that a highlight for you, Chelsea?
The scenery was like nothing I've ever seen before. The mountains, the lochs. It was just heavenly up there.
The temperature's pleasant, isn't it? Were you cold?
The Highlands were freezing.
Yeah. And was it rainy, misty?
Most days. It was very rare that you saw a full day of sun and no rain at all.
Yeah. So for you, going up to the Highlands, and it was mainly the scenery that in that particular trip, what did you notice different about the occupations of folks in that part of the world?
In Scotland or just in the Highlands?
In the Highlands.
In the Highlands, everything's very spread out. There's only one real main city where all the locals go that live up north. It's Inverness. And really, as far as occupations go, they keep sheep. They do a lot of, not farming, it's too cold, but a lot of ranching related things. Lots of fishing. Small shops.
Shop owners.
Mom and pop, kind of like small town West Texas, only in a much colder and mountainous environment.
What was one of your highlights, Elisa?
We actually took another side trip, but we went to Oxford when we were staying in London, and we took a day trip over there, just the two of us, because we wanted to go see some of our favorite literary authors of all time. J.R.R. Tolkien, who did the Lord of the Rings series, and C.S. Lewis, who did the Narnia series, and Lewis Carroll, who did the Alice in Wonderland books, they were all from Oxford, and so we decided to take our own personal pilgrimage as English majors and go and find some of their favorite haunts and restaurants and shops that they went to, just to kind of feel like we were a part of it too.
Did you go on the train?
A lot of times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So were you scared?
In the beginning, it's kind of daunting because we started out in London, and you get off the tube and you look around and you're thinking, I'm going to get lost, but it's really, you don't get lost at all very much, because every few blocks there is a subway tube station, so you can always find your way back.
And if you're ever going to try that, it's good to try it in a country that has a lot of people that speak the language that you're accustomed to.
Mm-hmm.
So yours was also a side trip. So what was your favorite museum that you went to?
I liked the British Museum, which was in London. That one wasn't so much a complete art museum. It was like a normal museum where it had artifacts from around the world.
History.
Yeah, history museum.
Uh-huh.
But it also had art in it too. But seeing the actual Rosetta Stone and seeing one of the crystal skulls, and that they always talk about, and Easter Island, one of the Easter Island figures they had there. And so you see things that people always talk about, but you've never
thought you would
experienced.
see.
Yeah.
What about your favorite museum, Chelsea?
Oh, it's hard to pick.
Just pick one.
Aside from the British Museum, in the British Library, they have a small museum for literary relics and things like that. So Jane Austen's writing desk was there, and her glasses, and Lewis Carroll's handwritten Alice in Wonderland and things like that were there. It was amazing. Handel's Messiah was in that little museum.
Handwritten one.
Yeah. That was incredible.
Did you go to any of the great cathedrals since that you had music? What was the music part of this trip?
Actually, it was more 20th century British composers, so we didn't get to spend a lot of time, listening to classical music so much. More of the lesser known, I guess here in America, you wouldn't hear about them so much. But the British composers, basically the 20th century one, our focus.
Did you go to a concert?
A few.
We got to go to Royal Albert Hall and see the Proms concert, one of the BBC Proms concerts. And we went to St. Giles Cathedral in Edinburgh, where they had a world-class organist who was there playing the organ in one of those old Gothic cathedrals. It was cool.
Yeah, there's some of the best organs in the world are in the areas where you went, so I was hoping that you got to hear one of those great, even a number of songs there, even if it wasn't a full concert. I understand you met someone very famous.
Yes, ma'am.
Unexpectedly, actually.
Well, tell me who you met and where.
We met Prince Charles at the Highland Games in Edinburgh.
Oh my. Well, did you see him fairly close?
Yes, ma'am. We shook hands with him.
Yeah, he came up and talked to us. So.
Oh my goodness. What a rare experience.
We've been told that a lot of Englishmen don't get to do that. So.
Well, was he participating in the games or
he wasn't the host, but he was there with the host, and I guess it was one of his royal duties or something to introduce the game, since Scotland is officially part of the UK. So the Queen is their queen too. And it was pretty interesting because when we got there, people were still coming into the gate, so nothing had happened yet because they were waiting for more people to come inside. And people were lining up on two sides, kind of like a victory line at a football game. And we heard murmurs around us, people saying, "Oh, I bet it's the prince coming." And some people said, "Oh, I bet it's the players coming through." And we were there with another couple who had come with us. And we got separated by a couple of people in between us. And we see all of a sudden these men dressed like they were in Secret Service outfits, black suits with sunglasses and earpieces. And all of a sudden there's the prince walking right towards you. And we kind of just blinked and we're like, that's the prince.
Yeah, it's Prince Charles.
The future king of England, maybe.
Well, tell our audience what is all included in the games.
Oh, everything from the tossing of the caber, which is those gigantic, like 19 to 23 foot logs about this big around. One man will try to flip it vertically and make it land at 12 o'clock. So that was great. We got to watch them throw the hammer, which is sort of a ball and chain type thing that they whirl around and throw. They have tug of war. They have bagpipers playing bands, and the best part is they have a clan village set up. So if you're of Scottish descent from anywhere in the world, you can come and find your clan and talk to them and find out where your ancestors came from and what your tartan, your plaid is, and all of that. And they have concerts too.
Well, that's very unique, isn't it? A very unique experience, and the fact that you got to meet a world leader up close like that is what a highlight to your trip.
Yeah.
My goodness, I would have enjoyed that as well.
Yeah, we always thought it was neat that not a lot of people in San Angelo, much less in Texas, can say that they've seen that, so it was pretty much an experience for us.
Wow. Why do you think international travel is so important to being a global citizen?
Well, it sounds so cliche, but it really does open up your eyes to, that there are other worlds out there besides your own personal micro world. Here it's even a lot of places in Texas, it's the same. It's dry, there's not a whole bunch of hills. People are used to being one way. It's fairly conservative here, but you go to other places and you realize that it's not like that everywhere.
And they've been around a lot longer than we have.
The history there, it's incredible because, things here that are 100 years old we have behind plate glass and laser protectors, and over there they have things that are thousands of years old, and they just leave them out in the open for people to enjoy on their own time.
Okay, what else is a benefit of making the sacrifice to have this kind of a travel experience?
There's not much sacrifice to it.
Well, the cost, if you're paying for
Right.
your college, I should have clarified that. You're right, Chelsea. It's just when you're paying a college expenses, many people can't afford to do that, and that's all I meant. So,
Right.
what are some other extremely important benefits? It's much bigger than just having fun
Right.
or seeing a beautiful place, even though that's wonderful.
Right.
What else are the great reasons for a family allowing their child to do this experience?
Well, it's because the benefits so outweigh the cost. I mean, I paid for a lot of this out of my own pocket, and my family contributed about half, and I contributed about half of my own savings. It takes a long time to save up that money, but you learn so much about another culture. You get to really immerse yourself in something completely different that you've never seen before. It helps you appreciate what you have, too.
Okay, that's excellent. And you saw, even though we have such roots to England and their way of life, our government, just our way of life, but there's still differences. And why do you think you will look at other people and other world events differently because of this trip? Why is it different than just reading about it?
Well, it's one of those things, you go and see it for yourself and you realize why circumstances can be different. It's not, here we have a certain set of government rules, and over there theirs is a little bit different, and so you see why certain things are the way they are over there because it's not the same as here.
And also, what I'm hoping that at some point, and if not already, you've thought about, is that no one country, certainly, and I'm now meaning England and Scotland, are right all the time or wrong all the time. No one country, I think, if it broadens and helps young people which is the best time while you're still moldable, to see that we're human beings and I think that the more I've been able to travel, which I haven't done as much as a lot of people, but I have been blessed to do a little, I think it cuts down on any thought of egotism that we in Texas are right all the time or the best, even though I think it's wonderful. But I think that has helped me. Have you already felt a little bit like that there are good people everywhere?
Certainly. No, there's good people over there. The Scots were lovely.
Especially if you told them
to us.
Yeah, especially if you told them you were Texan instead of American, they seemed to respond a lot better.
Yeah.
Now, why do you think that, Elisa?
Well, because Texans have a reputation of being friendly, and I guess that precedes us whenever you go even to different countries, because we found out in the beginning, if people asked us where we were from, a lot of times we would say, oh, we're from America, and they would kind of be like, oh, okay. But you tell them you're from Texas, and you can start a whole conversation with them.
Yeah, they had a whole speech at the Highland Games in Edinburgh about Jim Bowie. They talked about Jim Bowie
The
for
Bowie
about
knife in
5
Texas.
minutes, and about Texas, and everybody you met, you say, we're from Texas. Ah, Texas.
Oh.
And even restaurants had sometimes a Texas theme, which was, you never see that with any other state. It was the Texas Embassy, or that one restaurant we found in St. Andrews. The man and his wife, the man was from Texas, and he went to Texas A&M, and he opened a restaurant over there. And we actually met a couple from Houston in that restaurant in Scotland at this restaurant that was run by a Texas man. So.
They really admire us over there. I think our heritages are similar, even though they're such different places separated by an ocean. Scotland has had the same problems, the same struggle for independence, the same struggles that we have, and against England, and they sort of identify with us, I think.
I'll be.
Well,
you said the most beauty for you was in Scotland at the Highlands. Anything else just stand out for sheer beauty?
A lot of the little side cities we went to, like Oxford and St. Andrews, and the smaller places that we went just on our own time, they have a real beauty all their own, because their lives are so calm, but at the same time there's enough of a city center or a town center that you don't feel like you're cut off from the rest of the world. But it's got its own, because they have, well, first of all, they have flowers and rain and everything is green, so of course it's beautiful over there. But the smaller places, when they weren't so congested in cities, had its own charm every time you looked.
Were more people nice than not?
Yeah, we really didn't get
Absolutely.
a lot of, antagonistic behavior.
Good
from
for
others.
you. Good for you. What are both of you hoping to do when you graduate? Lisa?
I'm hoping to go back for master's degree in something. There's a few things that are floating around right now, but I have one that I'm kind of focusing on right now, so it's not set in stone though.
Well, I wouldn't expect it to be set in stone this early in first semester of your senior year.
Actually, we graduate in December.
Both of you do?
yes, ma'am.
Oh, wow. Okay, good for y'all. So you do see the light.
Mhm.
Wow. What about, do you know what you're going to do after graduation?
I'm not 100%. I'm going to try and work in the real world for a little while.
Okay.
Make a little money, and then I'll think about going back. I'm just very tired of academia for a little while.
Well, are you, either of you, thinking of teaching?
I'd like to teach someday, but
unless
it's
it was
right
in
now.
the college atmosphere, I wouldn't.
Right,
I wouldn't be
dittos.
teaching.
Dittos.
Well, I hope you change your mind. We would enjoy having two young ladies come back who have tried to find other ways besides just a book to expand your horizon of the world, and you make us proud. And I'm so glad you got to have this experience.
I think our parents are glad too, even though it's hard for them to let us go. At the same time, they're saying, no, you need to experience this on your own.
Good.
So
Good.
Especially since I'm the only child in my family and she's the only child in hers, so.
Yes, ma'am.
So it was a big deal, wasn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Wow. Well, best wishes in these weeks before your graduation as you plan for the next phase of your life. I know that you'll contribute to our world.
We'll try.
Thank you.
Thank you.